Welcome to Your Next Mission podcast with the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army and co-founder of the American Freedom Foundation, Jack L. Tilley. Proudly presented by Cavalry Agency, Navy Federal Credit Union, Purdue University Global, and Veterans United Home Loans.
Hello out there, warriors, past and present, and your families, and thank you for serving our great country. And welcome to Season 3 of Your Next Mission video podcast, a program initiative of the American Freedom Foundation. I'm Jack L. Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major of the Army. I always love saying that, and your host. And if you've watched us in the past, if you haven't, there's something wrong with you. But you may have noticed that we're coming to you from a brand new studio this year. We got a new look, just like my shirt. We got a new look. We got a new season, and we're looking forward to talking with some more incredible guests. This is all possible because of our generous support of our presenting sponsors. And I personally want to thank Cavalry Agency, Navy Federal Credit Union, Purdue University Global, and Veterans United Home Loans for making Your Next Mission happen. They love our veterans and families, and I say it every week. We love them too. We have a great show for you today. We're going to focusing on transitioning, and I'm excited. In fact, I'm just pumped up. I can't get out of my seat here a little bit. I'm excited to introduce Command Sergeant Major Herman Estrada, recently retired from the Group Support Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group at Fort Carson, Colorado, after serving 29 years. You know, I call somebody who served 29 years, I call them a quitter. I served 36. Hey, just a minute ago, you was telling about your family. I was going to get into something else. Tell me a little bit about your family that you talked about just a second ago. Well, first of all, thanks for being on the show. I'm going to say that first of all. But now tell me about your family.
Sergeant Major Army Tilley, it's funny because we were just talking, and yes, I have 9 kids, 16 grandkids. And I've fostered 3 other young men that have recently joined the Army. To have that big family and to have an influence and to show them the right path, out of those 9 kids, I had a couple of them join the military. And those foster kids have joined the military too. And now our grandkids are reaching the age where they can join the military. And our first granddaughter joined the Marine Corps. She ships out September time frame.
Oh my goodness.
And then my last foster kid, he ships out October to the Army. So I have that kind of impact and influence. It's one thing to be proud, but at the same time, remember, you got to be humble because it's their time. It's not your time. But at the same time, I cheer them on. Now I'm that spectator, just like you said. I'm a quitter, and I'm cheering them on. And hey, I'm proud to be that quitter now.
Well, let me take the back. You're not a quitter. You're I'm just harassing you. No. Hey. But let's be. You're doing a great job, and I'm blessed to have you on the show. You've had quite a career, but you haven't exactly been sitting around the pool. You're a motivator. You're a social media influencer. You're a brand innovator. What led you down that path?
Sergeant Major, to be able to start talking about that, I mean, you'd have to look at the beginning. And, I usually talk about, my story. We all have a story, Yeah, we got our ups and downs and our adversity. Some are worse than others. But for me, it was looking back and as I began to share my life on social media with others, like, our soldiers, and help them understand that many of them are no different than us because Absolutely. We're human. It's a human factor. And when they begin to hear that story, then they can relate to you, not only as a leader, but as a soldier and as a person. And I did that because you got to believe in how are you going to connect with soldiers? There's so many things that the Army provides to soldiers and how you're supposed to teach, coach, and mentor them. But when you are transparent and honest, soldiers respect you for that. And that's the type of leadership I develop. But as I tell my story, I talk to them about my decisions and choices because it's an ongoing process through life, And I tell soldiers, the decision and the choices is where we're all different because we're created equal until it's time to make choices. The younger me understood that later in life because it caught up to me, And then I began to realize that responsibility comes with accountability, and what I do and what I say has a meaning. And I can tell you that at the end of the day, when you open your mind and your heart and you begin to see those decisions and choices, it changes the perspective in your life. And then it begins to I know I began to want to do better. And it took a little more adversity, I was building super Walmarts, living on the streets, but it helped me understand that this is not what I wanted to do. And as I talk about, riding my 10 speed to that job site every day, working till midnight, because, you wait till the masonaries are done to fill the cells with that grout that makes that wall strong. You're out there late at night, hard work, hot sun in Texas. That was in Granbury, Texas. It was horrible, and it taught me a lesson. It taught me, hard work works, but if you're not applying it to your life, then nothing works, so that's where it all began for me, for the decision and motivating and sharing my life story with people.
Well, you talk about a lot of things that I certainly got interested in when I was every person needs something different to motivate them. Every person needs, everybody's not the same. You got to find out, especially as a leader that you was talking about, you got to find out the one thing that makes that person better, gets the best out of them. That's what leaders do, and that's what certainly that's what you're doing. I tried to do the same thing when I was a soldier. I tried to lead people and get the best out of them. But I tell you what, I'm sure the best years of my life are ahead. There always are. But I had wonderful years in the United States military that I enjoyed so much. And I learned a lot from a lot of people. Sergeant Major, you've had a very unique story, no different than mine. I mean, I was sort of a troubled youth when I was a kid, and I did a lot of crazy things. But at the same time, you carried a lot of responsibility. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the responsibility that I talk about, as holding myself accountable, and that's being, the decision I made, they kicked me out of the house. My dad and my mom were pretty much tired of how I was acting, because I was doing bad things, running around late at night, hanging with gangs and just doing crazy stuff. And the thing that got me was that, my parents would actually kick me out. And I was roaming the streets, and, everybody talks about you're my friend, man, you're my friend. But only then will you really truly begin to understand who your true friends are.
Yeah.
And I like to say things, I tell people you'll learn who your friends are and they'll disappear. And late at night, even your shadow disappears on you at night.
Yeah.
So you're left alone. And I tell people, roaming the streets, not knowing where you're going to stay, where you're going to eat, dodging the cops because they're looking for kids that are running out late at night. It was hard, and not knowing where I was going to sleep. And then dropping out of high school was another thing. I made a decision, you know what? Nobody cares. I don't care. So that responsibility was left up to me. So, once again, the decision I made was to drop out of high school. And it wasn't until one older lady down near where my parents lived, she gave me a little camping trailer. It was small. It was no bigger than probably 10 by 10. It was a very small trailer, And I remember her helping me get that job at that construction site. And I had to pay $100 every week for that place, for electricity, water, bought my own food, bought the 10 speed that took me to work. And it wasn't until I got hurt, when I really began to understand my responsibility to myself. And I'm laid out because I busted a bag of lime on myself, and not knowing, maybe if I would have stayed in school, I would have learned that lime was toxic, and it's raining and I got all this lime on me. And I didn't know till the next morning that it caused 3rd-degree burns. It ate my skin. And I remember being laid out, and thinking like, crying and like nobody wants me. At that time, I blamed everybody, my parents, I blamed everyone, even the owner that had me working there. You're like, this guy got me doing this, and this is why I'm how I am. And it wasn't until I began to cry, pray to God a little, And I remember turning the TV on and I saw my first Army commercial. It was "Be all you can be" in the Army.
Yeah.
I
remember that.
I wiped my eyes, a little bit, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I got to change something, and I got to hold myself responsible and accountable for my decisions. So, I got out of the hospital, got better, and went to high school and tried to go back to school. And they were like, hey, you're too old. You're at the age where we can't take you. And once again, shot down out of the sky. So they sent me to an alternative school there in Granbury, Texas. And I went to that school. It was called the STAR program because there's a new program. I think it's an adult education center. But when I got there, they asked me, we'll help you get your GED. And I was like, no, I want my diploma. I need to get my diploma. I need my diploma. So I began that journey. So now I worked half a day, which was at night, and I went to school half a day. And I still rode that bike. Now it was 10 miles the other way. And I did that for a while until I graduated. I finally graduated and got my diploma. I remember it was a Friday afternoon when I took the test, and I was waiting all day. They was like, hey, you can go home. We'll call you. I was like, nah, I'm not going nowhere. I'm waiting to see this grade. And I actually passed. And then began the next journey, which was trying to pass the ASVAB, which is another struggle. I had to study. It took about 8 times, and then I joined the Army. And that's when I began to really rationalize with myself, like, okay, man, when you make decisions, they're going to have outcomes. So now I had to learn to be a little more responsible. I did have kids already. So I thought to myself, what I do now is going to have an impact on them as well. So that's where I just began, that motivation and inspiring myself to be better, because I had a lot of naysayers telling me you're not going to make it. You're only going to last so long. And I began to use that negative energy to build a positive in my life. And that's when I began, thinking about the things I could do for myself first before I could help others.
Yeah.
It was a struggle, but, as the Army, they give you the ability to show what you can do. So that was easy for me. PT was a joke because I rode that bike every day and I worked picking up bags of sand and that was easy. I was like, you gonna pay me to do that? Heck yeah, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
But that was pretty much, that first chapter in my life that I had to overcome. And it was filled with a lot of adversity. I mean, at any given time I could quit. But I'd always tell myself, if you quit, where do you go from here? And that's when I began to think, what? On the other side of that mindset is a place where I know that there are things that are waiting for me if I just work hard at it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I use that every day. What can I do today to be better than I was yesterday?
Yeah.
And that's the mentality I maintained for a while, and it was great because it helped me get where I needed to go.
It's a great news story. A great story, a great Army story. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I was spent about 9 months in reform school. I wasn't a good kid. I always thought I'd be dead by the time I was 25. I was going in the wrong direction, and going to being locked up for a little bit sort of changed my life. It moved me in a different direction, and I really didn't have. I always talk with people about the circle of life. I didn't have no direction to go in. And one day I've told this story a lot, but I was sitting on a beach and a guy said, what are you going to do with your life? And I said, I don't know. He said, you want to go to college? No self-esteem, no money, no nothing. I'm not going to college. And the other guy said, hey, look, let's join the Army. I said, sure, okay. I didn't even know they was fighting a war. I went basic AIT jump school, and I was in Vietnam, 6 months after going to the service. But I say that because the Army made you, your parents too, and everybody else associated, but the Army changed your life, and it made you look at things. And in return to that, you did the same for a lot of people. You've changed their life, and really, I always tell people there's a lot of people as good as I am, but there's nobody better. I don't look down on myself. I don't look down on nobody else. But I want to do the best I can in life, and that's what you're doing right now. God bless you for what you're doing. You're making. I love to hear stories like this because you're making an impact. You're changing lives. The month of September is National Hispanic Heritage Month, where we can celebrate the histories and, of course, the cultures and contribution of the Hispanic Americans. What does that mean to you?
Being Hispanic in today's Army, is more than just about how I feel. It's about paving the way for the many new soldiers, that are Hispanic, allowing them to understand that uh, we're making our contribution to our nation. And as Hispanics, it's about uh, dedication and the service to our country, for our families and our brothers in arms. I know I want to leave a legacy for my kids, and their kids. And I know that to be a part of something bigger in this life, you must work hard at it. All right. And stay disciplined at all we do. Hispanics and Latinos, we have a strong bond for family. We're well known to be have a big family, as you can tell, and being very tight. But it's important to us to do the one thing that the Army always talks about. It talks about leading by example and making your family name proud. And so what I want to do is I want to find, I want to leave this place better than what I found.
Absolutely.
I want to leave an organization where everybody can come behind me and know that, hey, did you ever hear about this, Hispanic that did this? I don't want to be remembered as the Hispanic CSM. I want to be remembered for, hey, this guy helped and dedicated his time to give back to others. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
And that's what it means to me to serve my country. And I'm proud of this country. And I'm proud of my service and what it means to others.
Yeah. I tell you the other thing, you made me think about a lot of stuff there, but I think you got to stay focused. Right? You got, there's things on your left and right you got to worry about, but stay in your lane of responsibility and help people out just as much as you can. And I think a lot of people, and I tell people this all the time, a lot of people say thank you and all this other stuff through your service and stuff, but they just say thank you. Show me, get out there and show me the kind of things that you want to do. I always liked that General Shinseki used to say, roll your sleeves up and get the job done. That's what America's about. Everything's not going to be given to you. You got to work hard and reach for it. I'm just blessed. I'm blessed to have served, blessed to live in this country, and blessed to serve with guys like you. Even though I was a Sergeant Major Army and you was a Sergeant E5, I guess I didn't bump into you too much, but I'm proud of you anyway. Sergeant Major.
It's still just just what you brung to the table and what you preached and when you talk, we listen. So to be that sergeant during your reign, it's outstanding. It's an honor to be here just talking with you.
Well,
it's every person's dream to do that.
Well, the other thing is we're all soldiers. It doesn't matter if you're a 4-star general or a private. Just because we give it rank and responsibility, we're all basic soldiers and really we're all part of a family. So if you got problems, I got problems, and we got to make sure we take care of each other. Sergeant Major, you're now officially, almost officially retired. And everything I've read about you can tell that serving the Army was an honor and a privilege. Can you tell a little bit, elaborate on that just a little bit?
As I look back, and I talked about my story and everything, it's been an honor to be a leader in this Army. But I stated some things before on social media because I wanted others to listen to what I had to say. But I talked about leadership, and I talked about the organization, the Army, and I talked about how it's made up of people. All right. The priority should always be our people. And I believe in that before that it was even said. How we teach, coach, and mentor those soldiers to develop them into the next generation of leaders is on us. We have to assume that task. And that's what makes me proud, because I've seen the leaders before me do that for me. And it's important that I do it as well. But if the priority is our people, then what are we doing? What are we saying? Because without these people and the soldiers, we can't achieve the Army's mission. And that's taking care of our soldiers and guaranteeing that this Army will continue to be a great Army, and it's on us as leaders. But then you look at the readiness, I talk about, we got to train. We got to prepare for any and all operational environments, that may come our way, because you never know what the operation environment's going to ask from you. You never know. But I have a statement that my colonel loves. He has always mentioned it, even tells his wife sometimes. And he says, I tell them, hey, sir, if we train every day to be ready, We don't have to train to get ready.
Yep.
So that's the mentality I want soldiers to have. You can't get ready when it's time to go. It's too late. So you got to do that now. And it's important that we hear that and we say it and we preach it and we lead it by example, because the nation is going to count on us to be ready. How do you develop your people? And that's important to me as well. Because if you see it, I'm always talking about lead, motivate, and inspire, people readiness development. And the development is important as well, because as we talk about transition, this is where transition ripples in effect to us. And you got to be ready. What are you investing in soldiers? Allow them to grow, all right, in all areas of soldiers, and allowing them to be that leader as they grow, and investing in the investment in return is in how much time we spend with them, because time is something that you can't get back. So time is the most precious gift you can give anyone, even a soldier, because time will teach them, how a true leader that cares about their people, give them their time.
Yeah.
And those are the things that I've been prideful about these last, decade and a half is doing those things. And I'll never forget it. My service will always be a part of me and my family, because I continue to push, my grandkids and my kids into the Army or the Marine Corps. At the end of the day, it's about that. And then the last thing I want to say is I got this other statement that I got from General Reagan. He used to say, strong soldiers create strong sergeants. Strong sergeants create strong soldiers. And I've been pushing that for the last couple of years because I believe in that. Because we need each other. Because that soldier will become a sergeant. And he will look back at his soldiers and they will help him be stronger, because they will give him so many things that he has to learn and work on that he will become that sergeant. So those are the things that I'm prideful about in the Army.
You said so many good things. I wish I had a piece of paper. I've been writing all that stuff down to sort of come back on it. But a lot of things that you're talking about, leading by example, train the way you're going to fight. I used to tell guys in my unit that if we're going to go to war, I want you to train the same way, the same body armor, same everything. I'm going to make sure that you're ready, because in our profession, there's no second best. If you either win or you lose, and if you lose, with your life. The second thing is that, we're all part of a family. We all need to succeed together. We all need to accomplish the mission and get the job done. We're all part of a family. The other thing, I probably forgot about some of the things I want to say, but we're not the biggest army in the world. China, India, and then the United States Army. But what makes us different than everybody else is the training, the non-commissioned officer corps, the soldiers, the officers that lead our formations. It's about what we do each and every day. So I'm like you. I'm proud to say I served, and I'll continue to serve. Only serving a different capabilities, I guess, but a different way now. But now that you're transitioning out, I really want you to share with the audience on how you prepared, for what your experience is going to be like for you and your family when you get out.
Transition is gotten better. The one thing, the Army's great at training us to go to combat, preparing us for anything. But at one point, it was kind of hard because it wasn't actually transitioning us out. I can say this much now, as I went to the Sergeant Major Academy, they had a pilot course they were working on to try to prepare Sergeant Majors, to make them understand that, hey, it's important that you look after yourself and prepare yourself when you're getting out. And that course was awesome. They had like Deloitte there. They had all these awesome companies that were sharing their knowledge. But as I transition out, I think it's a better transition now. We're there, but not there yet. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I got you.
The transition is there, but it needs to get a little bit better. But I think it's getting there. The one thing I'll tell you, just from my experience right now, is it's an emotional roller coaster. I tell you, there's days I'm at a high, there's days I'm at a low. You begin to think about, the Army. I knew I had a paycheck on the 15th and the 1st of the month, but now when you get out, you don't know when that check's hitting. Even though there's a retirement check, I haven't seen that yet. So, those are things that are in my mind. And I begin to look at where am I going to work? Everybody's telling me that, hey, we got you, we want to hire you, but I'm not there yet, and it's that one thing that nobody tell you is the unknown. You don't know what you don't know. And if there's anything I'll tell anyone on this show that's listening, is you got to have a mentor. You got to talk. The Army's always talking about, hey, how are they going to tell us how to be an Army if they're civilians and they have never been in the Army? Well, how are we going to tell people to transition if they're still in the Army?
Yeah.
You got to have someone that's done it, has been successful, and can give you the pointers you need. And that's what I've done. I've used a lot of people that have a lot of sergeant majors that are out of the Army that are good friends, Mark Halliburton, Garrett Griffin, those individuals that have been out for a while, to help me prepare. And the medical piece, I can't tell you enough. Taking care of your medical, especially right now in the Army, they're so backed up, with COVID taking some of the people out, and they're not been able to fill some of the positions. They're backlogged for 45 days.
Oh,
It's talking about 45 days that you're not able to get your medical records to prepare a claim for VA. That's bad, So you got to start beginning to look at things now. Situation with finances, you got to start looking at your finances. How am I living? Am I over my means? Do I need to cut back? And you got to remember, at the end of the day, when you're looking for a job, when you're transitioning, the way I did is I'm looking just to make up what I used to make, because I survived with that. And then whatever else is extra. So don't oversell yourself, but also know your worth when you're at the table dealing with a new job. But at the end of the day, just going home to my family and being with them, it's going to be a little different. They're all happy. I'll tell you that much. Grandkids, daughters, sons, they're ready for us to get back home and to be in the civilian sector. I get calls every day. My wife and my kids just, Dad, is it time yet? I was like, no, we ain't there yet. But it's being patient. But it's going to end. And like I tell you, you just got to prepare yourself. Like I said, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, and just hold on for the ride and have somebody to help you. I think that's some of the things that I'm looking at and talking to some of these senior leaders that are out, is trying to work a method that we can provide some mentorship to those that are leaving in the future. And that's what we want to try to develop, and we're working on.
You hit on a lot of good points. I'm going to tell you real quick here. 2 years out, you got to start the process, pay all your bills off, know where you want to live, start that networking process, I know you got a resume already. Start floating that resume with everybody. Send one to me. You never know what'll happen, but float that resume. And really, one you hit on a lot of stuff is knowing what your worth is. And so talk to a lot of people about financially, what should I be asking for a job? And then the last thing is they'll send you an offer letter. And on that offer letter, they're going to say, I'm going to offer you so much. Get one of those mentors that you have to take a look at your offer letter. Because a lot of times, because of some of the benefits that you have, like TRICARE and all the rest of that stuff, there's a little bit of room there, fudge room a little bit, to ask for additional money based on what the Army or what the government's going to give you on your disability. We're talking with Sergeant Major Estrada, and recently retired from the U.S. Army, and you're watching Your Next Mission video podcast. Your host with your host Jack L. Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major Army. And don't forget, if you're enjoying this discussion, please like us and click on that subscribe button. Sergeant Major, to continue on the discussion, motivating and inspiring others has been a big part of your life, even so much to create your own brand, Mega Hooah. I heard that a couple times.
Hooah.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about how that got started?
Well, it was a time when I became a young sergeant. During the time you were in the Army there, Sergeant.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, it's as a young sergeant, you start to think about, man, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But at the end of the day, the one thing you don't think about is the trust. How are you going to be trust in your team? And then how do you invest in your team? We're always talking about it's a team effort, my squad, my team, all that stuff. But, at the end of the day, you got to have buy-in. And my investment to my team is how I created the Mega Hooah. it was first you got to believe in your brand and understand that it's going to do what you want it to do. But my brand, it just went off a little different than what I expected because I just wanted to reach the team and make sure they understood, look, leading by example for me, leading by example, it doesn't mean that I'm bigger, better, and stronger. It meant that I wanted to be there with you. I wanted to be in the mud. I wanted to be in that hard PT run. I wanted to be there so I could win your trust and you knew I was there for you. And then you go back to the presence part, bringing value to my team and ensuring that they understood that it was all about them, not about me. And so instead of that, I used to always say, the other squads would be like, yeah, I had them do this. And I was like, yeah, my team did this. It was never about I.
Yeah.
I turned the M upside down and it was we. It never was me. It was we. We as a team did this, and then so then I went on to social media later on and it took off because people looked at the Mega Hooah as me because of all the hard PT. At the same time I was doing hard PT, talking about, what leadership meant to me. It was a decision you got to wake up every morning and you have to validate it every day. It's not something that you do once and it's over. No, every day's a new day. You have to bring a different type of fire to the table. And I think that just resonated with a lot of soldiers. Here's this leader, up in the morning, waking us up, calling us out, and he's doing it. What is that, a log? Is he carrying a log with his vest? This dude's crazy, and it just took off from there. And the team just followed, and everywhere I went, it was like, mega who, mega that. And it's gotten to the point where, I was on vacation. We went to Hawaii and me and my wife were sitting in the airport and there was I think about 5 or 6 soldiers sitting across from us. And then my wife leaned over and she's like, babe, they keep looking at you. And I'm like, yeah, I know. They probably know me. And then one got up, built the initiative to come up to me and say, hey, are you Command Sergeant Major Mega Hooah? And I was like, that is one of the names I go by.
Yeah.
And he turns around. He's like, I told you. And they all came over and sat with me. He's like, do you mind? We'd like to talk to you for an hour. And I was like, sure. And we sat there for about an hour and a half before our flight. And we talked about, leadership, mentorship, lead, motivate, and inspire, what a leader should be like. And, they left there pretty happy. They took pictures, like, man, nobody's going to believe we met the Mega Hooah. But that's the kind of thing. It's not the ego. It's the motivation and inspiration that you give others, knowing that, hey, if this guy can do it, we can do it too.
Yeah, I got to tell you a real quick funny story. I was working, this has been a while back, I was working out up in Fort Myers, a gym. So I'm working out on this elliptical. And this young soldier walks by me once, he walks by me twice. He walks by me the third time. The third time he stopped, he says, are you the former Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack L. Tilley? I says, I felt real good. I saw my chest sort of popped up a little bit. I said, yeah, I sure am. He said, man, you look a lot younger in your photo. I said, what? All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Your Next Mission podcast.
You're watching Your Next Mission, proudly presented by the Cavalry Agency. They help brands dominate no matter their size. Ideas, strategy, action. This is Cavalry. Learn more at cavalry.com. Navy Federal Credit Union, the most trusted credit union owned by members of the military community, serving all branches of the armed forces and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Purdue Global, providing affordable online education for hardworking adults. Learn more about a personalized, innovative, and world-class education at PurdueGlobal.edu. Veterans United Home Loans, the #1 VA lender for 5 straight years. If you're buying, they're funding your dreams. Learn more at VeteransUnited.com. Now back to your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack L. Tilley.
Welcome back. We're blessed to be here today with recently retired, I want to make sure I get that correct, from the U.S. Army, Command Sergeant Major Herman Estrada. And I want all of our viewers to reach out to me directly. Tell us about your transition. Tell us about what topics you'd like us to cover on the show. I always like to tell people that we want to cover things you want us to cover. We want to help our family, our veteran community. You can call or text me at 844-424-1134, and I'll actually reach back out to you. Don't be surprised. Or send me an email at SMA Tilley at yournextmission.org. Okay, let's pick it up where we left off. Sergeant Major, I see where you have quite a presence on social media. How has that helped you communicate your vision, motivation, and inspiration and leadership?
Social media could work great. It could be bad for you. But in my instance, and for me alone, it's been one of the culminating events of my career. And I think taken to social media, most leaders social media can harm you. But to motivate that many people and have everyone, reach out to you after a couple years, and telling you, hey, you've helped me through some hard times.
Yeah.
It's been great. It's one of my things that I look forward to every morning, because it's like I wake up and I'm like, what am I going to talk about today? But if there's one thing I always remind them, that it's the opportunities. The opportunities are always present. And it's all about you making the decision and the choices, as you can tell, because I talk about that as my life story, to be successful in whatever it is you want to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be PT. It could be academically. It could be a leader. It could be whatever is going on in your life. And social media has helped me do that. I can share my family and their success for my kids graduating from college and going to school at a different college or joining the military, because everybody can relate to those things. But what you can't get wrong is the process. Yes, we're different people. Yes, our outcomes are different, but the process is always the same. You cannot focus on your destiny right away. You got to focus on that journey. And what I've done with that social media is just to do that, give people hope and even inspiration at times. I've also had a lot of people reached out to me. I had an officer, I remember it was a major, and he sent me this long message on Messenger. And he's like, I want to tell you, I didn't like the NCO Corps. That's why I got out of the military. I thought the NCO Corps was useless and it just controlled stuff that really they didn't know what they were doing. And he went on this big rant about how he hated us and everything, and how he got out because of the NCOs. And then finally it got to the part where he's like, until I met you, until I seen you on social media, and I've been following you for quite a while. And he talked about how I had rebuilt that trust in him because he seen me talk and do and lead by example, and it made him, feel bad that he left the Army, but he was proud of his service. And, and I told him, I was like, at the end of the day, I can't control how you feel, but I can show you that, we are more than what you think we are, because it's not about being stronger or better. Our profession is that we will do everything in our power to do everything to train, to man, equip, maintain, and sustain everything that we can to win this nation's war. And that's what I'm about. And he wrote me back and told me, hey, I appreciate that. You're what everyone should be doing. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Not everybody's cut out to do, that. But just messages like that, made me happy to hear people overcoming adversity, scoring their first APFT 300 or scoring high on the ACFT because they did some workout I was doing. But it's great. I mean, it's been one of those culminating events for me.
Those are all great comments. But what advice would you give leaders for leveraging social media? Because a lot of leaders are really hesitant to get on social media.
I tell them, I sat down with, not to put him on the spot, but General Clark, he came here to Fort Carson as they began their podcast. And, the things I told him is, sir, social media could be good or bad. You have to have moderators. There are people out there wanting to corrupt it, but you can't be as scared. you have to embrace it. It's called change. And with change comes opportunity, not only for you as a leader, but for soldiers, for the social media people that are watching you, and as long as you watch what you say and how you say it and you have some type of tact, that's why I don't use names. I don't blame organizations. I try to correct people and tell them, look, you got the institution mixed up with the other bubble that's inside the institution, because the leaders are in the institution and the Army is the institution. So the Army has been around for years. It's new leaders that come in and make, the trouble sometimes, doing the wrong things, saying the wrong things. And that's what I tell them, and just be true, be upfront, read what's true, and everything will be fine.
You know what I do is
and I've had multiple.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sergeant.
No, and I've had multiple friends, that are on social media say the same thing. You can't be afraid of something new. Just because you fear it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just understanding that it's going to happen. And I reach my soldiers here. They know me through social media. They knew me before I even got here. So social media introduced me to the last two organizations before I got there. So, it could be used for good. But at the same time, be cognizant of your audience, know your audience, and understand. Don't talk about something you don't understand or you don't know nothing of. I don't go around talking about too much finances because I'm not no finance, major. But I am always talking about leadership and mentorship because at the end of the day, that's what my job calls for. What am I going to do to be innovative in how I mentor and influence my soldiers? And this is one of the ways.
Yeah. What I was going to say a minute ago is honest and fair. And be honest about your comments. Be fair about your comments. The other thing, I think it's important if you want to make a correction or say something, I'll just say, what I do, and it's probably not the right thing to do, but I'll say, hey, look, would you mind calling me? And here's my number. Give me a call. And really, what I do is I talk to them one-on-one and see if I can sort of coach them and get them to understand and understand exactly what I'm saying. I love the saying, we must motivate ourselves. I'm going to read it right. We must motivate ourselves to inspire to do the same. I'm sure you've had some wonderful success stories about, that you can share with us where you have motivated others to achieve maybe something they've never thought they could do.
Being in this organization, I don't know if you've heard, but this organization has done I would call it the Secretariat. They've won all in 1 year. We won the best SSA. They as the soldiers, they won the best SSA, the best warrior restaurant, and then they won the best maintenance program.
Hooah.
And things like that is, motivating because some of them didn't want to do it. I'm like, you got to believe in yourself. I don't think we got what it takes, and you tell some of those first sergeants or platoon sergeants or whoever, like you have to believe in yourself. You have to inspire yourself before you can inspire your team because they're going to go off of your energy. The energy you have is what's going to introduce to the soldiers, and they're going to go off of that. Mm-hmm. And I continue to tell them, I am the pulse of the organization, meaning that I bring in whatever. If I'm stressed out, the unit's going to be stressed out. If I'm motivated, the unit's going to be motivated. So I've always used that, get up in the morning, inspire your soldiers, inspire yourself to do great things. And it has to begin with you. Just like, they say to lead others, you have to lead yourself first, and that's making right decisions and things. So that's how I always push my methodology or mindset in the organization. And that whole thing that I talked about, I am not going to measure you with my ruler. I have to measure it with yours. What are your strongness? Where's your strong areas? What are your weak areas? What are we doing to overcome them? What are we doing to teach you new methods? And those are things that are important, to the soldiers. And I owe that to them and the leaders.
Yeah. Well, first, let me tell you that I'm proud to talk to somebody like you that is a sergeant major, because like I said, I've been out of the Army for quite a while now, but guys like you motivate me because you have the passion, you have the heart, you have the drive, you have the enthusiasm, you have the motivation that do exactly what this Army needs us to do. And I'm sure you've led a lot of really great people, and just really not just from me, but all the military service members and all that other stuff. I want to thank you for what you've done and what you continue to do. Are there any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience? Anything that you want to tell us before we hang up? Because I've enjoyed talking to you, but unfortunately we're not finished here.
Okay. I do so much on social media, but, I like to share a couple of things, and it's not big stuff, but at the end of the day, I want, as you hear us talking about leadership, mentorship, everything. So I pose a question to every leader out there is how do we honor those leaders who have invested in us? And you got to think about it. But, for me, we have to pass the equity forward to upcoming leaders. And that equity is everything that they've invested in you, the time, the knowledge, all that stuff. It creates equity because as you begin as a leader to move forward and become the next level, you begin to harness that stuff and you begin to add more and more. And when it comes to the end, like now for me that I'm transitioning, it's important that I take that equity and I pass it to every soldier. And I give it to those leaders because it's important for me as a leader and it's important for them as soldiers. Okay, so then there's another thing I want to put out. As a leader, our position is to build others up. Our job is not to tear down people. It's not to come in an organization and tear the organization up. It's about making it better than what you found it. And how do you do that? By inspiring them and empowering your people to make those choices and make those decisions so they can own it. And when they begin to own those decisions that they made, it inspires them to want to be better. It grows all, and you have to let them grow around you. And that's when you start to see your organization flourish. You get to see the greatness that each soldier has. Communication. I talk about communication all the time. It has to begin with you. You have to fine tune it. And the way you fine tune it is important. It's the ability to present what you want done through communication. In fact, I've met many leaders that can't do that. They're not very informative. They're not clear, precise, and to the point. And you have to understand that if a soldier can take it the wrong way, they will do that. And that's only because the way we communicate with our soldiers. And how do we make sure that don't happen? You calibrate with others. You have to be effectively communicate with those individuals. And you have to do it with everyone. You can't communicate with a soldier the way you communicate with a sergeant. You can't communicate with a sergeant how you communicate with a first sergeant. It's different levels and understanding their positions and their maturity level. And when you do those things, it helps your organization be better. All right. And then the last thing I'll leave y'all with is the most, we always have to find a way to come to work and feel like we're at our best. All right. I know it's hard because sometimes I don't always feel my best, but when you feel your best, you perform your best. And that's important for your organization. It brings purpose and meaning every day to each individual that you engage with. And it makes them feel like they're ready to come home to work. And that's what they'll call it. Hey, I'm ready to go to work. But those are things that are important to me as I begin to transition. Don't ever forget the people concept. We're all humans before we were NCOs or soldiers. You can't leave with the rank that's on your chest. You have to leave with your heart, your mind, and remember the things that you've been taught. But at the end of the day, remember, we're all in this process together. So from me to you, have a great day. And it was great being on the show, Sergeant Major. I appreciate it. I enjoy social media. I enjoy mentorship. I enjoy talking to soldiers. I enjoy sharing my story and being a part of something like this. So thank you.
Well, let me give you a big mega hooah.
Mega hooah.
Mega, I'm with you. Hey, thanks again to Sergeant Major Estrada. I'm Jack Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major Army, and you've been watching Your Next Mission video podcast. And thank you for watching today. Please visit our website on yournextmission.org and leave me a review. I always say leave me a good review, but if you got to leave me a bad one, I can take that too. You can also visit our partners there who can provide you with so many services that will assist you in your transition from the military. Also, please visit our corporate partners there and see all the jobs that are available for you. Please know we want to assist you in any way we can. I always like to say this twice. Please know we want to assist you in any way we can. Please follow me on all of my personal social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And yes, I never thought I'd ever say that. And if you enjoyed this discussion with Sergeant Major Estrada, please like us. Click on that subscribe button below. Don't forget, we want to hear from you. Please leave me a message or send me a text at 844-424-1134 or send me an email at SMA Tilley at yournextmission.org. Thanks again to Sergeant Major Estrada for being with us today. It was a great having you on the podcast. And now it's my turn to say something. Listen to Sergeant Major Estrada. I have so many things that sort of running through my mind, but I'm going to give you two, or really maybe three. The first one is lead by example. Show not just soldiers, but people at your work what right looks like. Lead by example. Develop and mentor the people around you. And make sure you're a good communicator. Make sure you take the time to communicate with the people that you're working with each and every day. And the last thing I'll tell you is be a good listener. Listen to the people that are around you. Listen to the people that you want to help develop in your organization or in your Army or in your Navy or Air Force or Marine Corps, whatever it may be. But lead them and listen to them and care about them. And Sergeant Major Estrada was really right. It's all about people. It's about taking care of people. Just don't talk about it. Do it. Again, thanks for watching, and thanks to Cloudcast Media, New Mind Studios, and of course our 4 presenting sponsors, Cavalry Agency, Navy Federal Credit Union, Purdue University Global, and Veterans United Home Loans. We appreciate all you do for our military. And as always, see you on the high ground. Hooah!
You've been listening to Your Next Mission, brought to you by the American Freedom Foundation. Learn more by visiting yournextmission.org.